Most people who are good at sales will be often called they are shameless people. Every MBA school of India will...
Meet Kunal Shah, the brain behind
Cred.
one of India's sharpest minds. He's not just a founder, he's a fintech philosopher leading a revolution.
What's your hiring methodology, sir?
We love hiring a lot of ex-founders because they're usually very self-aware on what do they suck at.
So in today's day and age, if somebody is, let's say, 16 years old or 22 years old, how do you think they can create an environment around themselves to learn sales deliberately?
People do not follow somebody basis what is right and wrong.
So what would be the percentage of people who are compounding at Cred and who are not compounding at Cred?
There's like, if it means, see, we did our first IPL campaign in peak COVID. Multiple of our board members and others recommended to us that we should not do it because...
How do you create a culture where creative confidence is instilled? So which is the most brutal feedback that you've gotten from a new joinee? What are the most stark observations that you made about Indian consumers which is different from the West?
Arey yaar, I don't want to see this.
Before we dive in, a quick word for every business owner who's listening to this podcast. If you've ever dug through crumbled receipts, screenshot tickets from 5 months ago, or forwarded 17 emails to your CA, you already know that managing expenses is a nightmare. Lost receipts, messy approvals, delayed reimbursements, and don't even get me started on tax season. But what if I told you there is a very, very easy way to do all of this, and that too without any hassle? Here's where I want to introduce you to a magical tool called Odoo Expense app. This tool saves business owners hours every single week. With Odoo, you can submit expenses effortlessly whether you're on desktop, using your phone, or even forwarding receipts via email. Your manager gets full picture with no guesswork needed at all. You can even group expenses into reports and submit all at once and get approvals in just one click. So managers can view receipts side by side and approve it instantly and add comments when needed. And the best part is that approved expenses are automatically posted to your accounting with no manual entries and no chaos. And you can track team expenses, re-invoice clients, and keep your entire process clean and paper-free. So if you're done chasing receipts and if you're ready to take control of your business, start using Odoo Expenses today. Your first app is free for life along with hosting and support included. So hit the link in the description and manage your expenses like a boss with Odoo. Sir, you are one of the most fascinating figures in the startup ecosystem because you're not just an entrepreneur, but you're also a great philosopher. From the tweets that we all have read, it seems like you have a very fascinating view of the world. And you often tweet about the Indian consumer behavior. Mm-hmm. And that in a way becomes like a subject of brainstorming for my team and even my friends for that matter. Which tells me that you have a very interesting view of the world. And when we looked at your early life, we understood that you went from selling mehendi cones and pirated CDs to then building one of the most successful fintech companies in the country. So in today's episode, I have 5 important subjects to explore. The first is how to sell to an Indian consumer, considering the fact that we are a trust deficit society, as you mentioned. Secondly, how to hire the best talent, because we all have heard great things about Cred's culture and the kind of talent that you attract. Number 3, we want to understand from your view, how do you spot a gap in the market, considering the fact that you delve into so many subjects. We want to understand the first principles of how to spot a gap in the market. And most importantly, we want to understand the Cred story and the lessons that you've learned, which every founder must learn while building a business. So, there are some podcasts that we often keep revisiting as a reflection. I want this podcast to be one such podcast. First principle oriented. So as many wonderful stories you have, that'll be great.
Sure.
That's the agenda for today's podcast.
Perfect.
So to set context, talk to me about your early life. And why were you selling mehendis and pirated CDs?
I've spoken about it, but I'll just kind of repeat it for the sake of it, because it gives the context on why I didn't make some decisions. I think grew up in a large joint Gujarati family where people were involved in businesses, and the family went through some financial crisis. My dad's business did not work out. I had to start working from very early age. And when I use the word start working, it was basically taking care of the house. Like you had to have money to survive. And I don't think I was really thinking I was going into these businesses. I was just saying, how will I make money? So all the early things from I was a part-time delivery boy, I used to work as a data entry operator, I have sold Mehndi cones, I have sold pirated CDs. All of these were like finding ways to make money and do well, right? But the thing that changed some of these things is basically the lessons of sales, right? Because when you are trying to, let's say at that point of time, the word pirated CD came much later on, right? But building a way to make a CD from music of songs that were not available in India or not heard in India was an interesting experiment on its own that, okay, you were able to kind of take that. And I think the word pirated came much later in the vocabulary for most of us, right? Okay, this is what I was doing is, and it was more about like, did I build an established empire for that? No, the answer was like, I would do it for some people here and there and make some money. Same thing for Mehndi cones. The insight was very simple that when people are going for weddings, they have a deep need to differentiate themselves so that they look different. And that black Mehndi cone was an interesting way to say that, okay, my Mehndi is going to be so different because I've got it black, right? So I think the human need to differentiate is something that I understood from that, and it actually worked well. And I would purposely price it multiple X more than the regular Mehndi so that people feel that, okay, not only is it differentiated, it's expensive, so it must be great. And I used to basically go and sell it at stores in affluent neighborhoods where I would tell them that if you sell this, and I would do a good job of packaging it, put branding on it, all of that stuff, because we knew that if these people found value in it, they will sell it. And if they have enough commissions, they will push for it. And it was always about freshness. So we would always say that if you get an order for this, just tell us, we'll get this, and we would make posters and get this done. And this is early days of internet, so I could leverage many of these things and just kind of put these things in place. But I think the key lesson was that if you are put into a constrained environment where you have to work and you have to make money to survive, you will figure out everything, right? Most people in India are terrible at sales, right? And the reason they are terrible at sales is because they never had to persuade somebody to do well, or to survive, or to do that, right? So for example, somebody gave me an interesting example that kids who have had very disciplined parents and had to still find a way to have fun become extraordinary at sales. Because they had to constantly persuade and find a way to do it, right? Or they got disciplined, right? But if they did not get disciplined, they got great at sales, right? But that's not a very reliable way of becoming good at sales. Sometimes the constraints. But I think sometimes a blocker comes to us that when we are forced people to do sales. But if you look at entire life, all the people who do well in life are extraordinary at sales.
Correct.
You want to hire somebody, you have to be great at sales. You want to convince an investor, you have to be great at sales. You want to sell a product, you have to be great at sales. You want to convince your boss to do something, you have to be great at sales. So the core concept of persuasion is a subject that is missing from our ecosystem, right? And therefore what we see is like that gap multiply further, because we may be the most smartest people, but if you cannot explain, if you cannot communicate clearly, how are we going to create any version of success? Because it's like, oh, I wish they understood what I'm saying. That's not their problem. That is your problem.
True.
And I think that's something that has kind of stayed with me, that like that early force nature of learning how to sell just gets you sharper about understanding how human motivations work.
So not a lot of people have this opportunity to learn sales because of not having constraints. And people who have constraints often see that as the boundary and they never cross it. Like you mentioned, people who have boundaries but have the intent to cross it will find ways to cross it. But if I was told earlier that by crossing boundaries, you will actually learn something extraordinary, I would attempt to cross my boundaries. So in today's day and age, if somebody is, let's say, 16 years old or 22 years old, how do you think they can create an environment around themselves to learn sales deliberately?
The easiest thing to think about in life, and especially when you are 16, 17, 18, 19, your life situation is not really to make money. You have just basic stuff. For example, figuring out, every kid at 16 to 21 figures out how to convince parents to do something. And there are some people who are very good at it, some people who are not good at it. the easiest thing to do is find out from the kids who are very good at it, what do they do? What do they say? How do they convince? When do they ask? What kind of stuff do they talk about? Right? And get good at it. Often people assume persuasion is lying and manipulation, which is where the gap is, right? It's not lying and manipulation. It's about understanding what the other person expects. How can you create a win-win situation, right? For example, many kids say that, hey, if I get this done and I'll finish my homework, I do this thing, can I just go for this one particular thing? And just kind of make a simple thing become saying, okay, it seems that I deserve this, right? But a lot of times we go into this random fights, random debates, emotional dramas, because we have no persuasion skills. Everything becomes a conflict.
Correct.
And because everything is conflict, we avoid it. So we don't change, right? But if you think about it, let's say you need to convince somebody at school to join for a plan. Same situation. How would the best people do it? Observing them, mimicking them, asking them to teach you in your circumstances. Another thing that you'll notice is that all the people who are not good at sales and persuasion are also terrible at asking for help. Usually connected topics, right? They will not go and say, yeah, I really need this help. I need to convince somebody for doing this for me, or allowing my professor to allow this for me, or do something for me, or let me skip this particular practical in college. Can I? And they will never ask people who are good at it. And that's a consistent thing you see, that people who do not grow are the ones who do not ask for help. Not asking for help is deeply connected to persuading, because there is this barrier of looking small or feeling small by asking for help, which comes from insecurities, which acts as a big blocker many other times. For most of the times, you will be told no, but what does it change anything in your life? But to avoid no, we don't attempt. So you see patterns that are all connected to just creating this image of ourselves. For example, what you will see is people who think of themselves as this, but their actual substance is this, are the easiest to offend, right? Because you can easily do some only and they'll react quickly to that. And in fact, those are the exact people we love trolling, making fun of, annoying them, right? But people who have this thing close to each other, they're very hard to offend. For example, if somebody told me, Kunal, you're overweight, I'll say, yeah, that's a fact. So what do we do now? Right? But if I had deep insecurities about the same topic, I would say, like, I will start defending and say, I will use all the terms to protect myself from that identity. Versus I'm saying that's a factual thing. So what do we do? And what are you trying to tell me? Is there a new information you have for me? So you will see that some people are just hardest to offend because their substance and their perception is connected to each other. And second, they do not have the need to react to everything. But all of these are connected topics to saying that there is an insecurity that prevents you from asking for help. There's an insecurity that is preventing from asking for somebody to do something for you that causes the thing. So what you will see, that most people who are good at sales will be often called they are shameless people.
True.
And then you go back to the word shameless and say, how did we become so worried about shame? Because if you are raised by constantly being told that, oh, if this happens, somebody will say shame, shame, or if something happens, it'll be a big shame on you. If this happens, it'll be a shame. And the word shame is something that is like log kya kahenge is an interesting thing that we have, right? So what you do is inaction. Kuch kiya nahi to kahenge nahi. So I'm good. I don't need to do anything.
Correct.
But if you get rid of that part, that you are worried about what people will say, you will compound fastest. But most people have no interest in that. They are stuck in the versions which are protecting their identity, protecting themselves. And therefore, many a times, people are easiest to offend. And I'm a little worried about the youth right now because they are getting to a point where social media creates an interesting bubble where you are a unique personality in front of your followers.
Correct.
Right? And you create an image. But the challenge is that anybody questioning that is seen as an offense. Right? Because you already have a formed view on who you are. Well, you are still getting formed.
Correct.
So I think I've seen a pattern where like people who build this tendency of getting offended quickly almost gift themselves a curse forever to not grow. And I think that is something that is deeply connected to sales and being shameless and being connected to be successful.
So shameless combined with humility, combined with the ability to keep learning from what's working, eventually makes you a good salesperson.
Yeah. You'll notice one thing, that some good people are always good at seeking feedback. What do you think? What could I have done better? Can you do something? Almost to an annoying point.
Yeah.
But most people are not interested. In fact, they get offended. They get defensive when you give them feedback. In fact, think about one simple framework, right? Imagine 10 people in your life. And imagine you need to have a tough feedback with each one of them. In which places you feel, arey, that person will listen, will be actually thankful. Which people you are like, boss, I don't want to go near them because I don't know what reaction I'll deal with. Right? When you think in categories like that, you know which person is going to grow or not grow.
Yeah.
Right? But what if you were also exactly like that for different people? Let's say you are a founder of this podcast and your team is extremely scared to tell you what your blind spots are. In few years' time, the success will not follow.
Yeah.
Because everything that you've done that you believe is perfect will stop working. Because the audience has evolved, but you have not. Because you never heard from anybody what's the blind spot.
Hitler is a classic example.
Every success story will have the same patterns, or every decline will have the same patterns. That you create success where your ability to listen drops dramatically. Because arrogance is where your perception about yourself is growing faster than your substance. And then you create a shield around you for people to tell you anything.
Got it. Sir, how can someone deliberately not create that shield? Because there's something called creative confidence that I've studied. And it says that if the intern in the company can voice his opinion without being feared, without fearing the judgment of other people, that is an indication of company success. Because if everybody can speak their mind, it says that feedback is being taken. Eventually, that results into higher probability of success for the company. But in an organization, how do you create a culture where creative confidence is instilled?
Well, the easiest thing to do is encourage people to ask questions. Because the advanced stages, they give you ideas. Expecting somebody who's just joined the company as an intern to give you great ideas is going to be limited because they have limited experience.
Correct.
And context about your company. But they may have great questions. That will be a blind spot that you would not get. For example, one of the things I do for all the new people who join at Cred, I hold a session with them and I usually tell them that in the first 30 to 60 days, everything that you're observing, tell me about it. Because they have a unique ability to see, this looks random, this feels stupid, ye kya chal raha hai, ye kyun karte hain, right? And sometimes this is just happening as a ritual, but you just don't realize that it's been stupid for so long. But I think if you just create an audience or an perspective, so that can you help me? And one of the things that I've seen the best people do, they treat feedback like a gift. And that's just literally 1% of people who treat feedback like a gift. They show the insane excitement to receive it, insane excitement to open it, an insane excitement to thank people, get, oh my God, this was so good, so that they have the motivation to give you gift again. But if I'm like, arey yaar, like, I don't want to see this, I'm going to push this away, I'll get defensive. And people, when they get feedback, rarely they demonstrate curiosity. They most likely demonstrate defensiveness. Arey, but that day this happened and that's why. I said, no, what else? What do you think you felt? You observed this. So what was the impact of what happened? And do you see this pattern recurring in me? Do you see me doing this again and again? Do you think I should fix this thing? And what do you think? In which circumstances do I behave like this? And they would have observed you to tell you these patterns.
So which is the most brutal feedback that you've gotten from a new joinee that has helped you grow?
I mean, continuously, like there's like, if it means, see, something is brutal when you're constantly not in touch, right? Like if you're constantly in touch, the thing really shocks you, surprises you. For example, like let's say we built a ritual for an elaborate thing and we had all these teams present, do all of that stuff. Then we realized that the onboarding process was so long that nobody had attention span for it. हमको लगा कि हम सब कुछ दिखाएंगे, बताएंगे ये वो, but then it reached a point where you're like, they're just for a week just getting bombarded.
Like, for example, can you walk me through it so that...
No, for example, we had a ritual where we said, okay, each team will present what happens in marketing and what happens in design to the new joinees across all the team members. And we realized that the sessions became this broadcast of things that I have less context or knowledge about, versus maybe making sense of this if I was a little bit involved in work also. Before I've entered, I've been given this like very elaborate context-less awareness. It's a little bit like school. And people don't have attention span for that. Like, kyun kar rahe ho, right? And sometimes you have to just tweak it because it was started with the right intent. That let's give them color of all the teams and all the choices and all the things that we do. But sometimes it's not very helpful. So I think that's just helps. Like, people are like coming and saying that, hey, what was this about? Why did we do this? And original intent, actual execution, which mein itna gap hota hai that you're like, oh my God, this is so stupid now.
And has anybody given you like personal feedback that would otherwise seem very offensive?
I don't get offended.
No, otherwise seem offensive. To a normal person, it might seem like...
I don't know that because I don't get offended, so I don't know what would be offensive for somebody else. I find feedback is either useful or useless. I don't understand how to attach a tag offensive to it.
Got it. And which is the most useful feedback that you've gotten?
Every feedback is useful because there are blind spots, right? For example, if somebody tells you that, hey, the way you walk is causing this tilt and causing this thing, this could having this impact, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. I would have never noticed this. Somebody observed me walking and saying, hey, you have a thing where you are bending a little bit on this side and that side. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But if you're just curious as a core personality, feedback is great. Right? But if you are non-curious, then everything is annoyance. Like we use the word, no, that dimag ka dahi mat kar, like whatever. It's just basically a reaction for your brain to get reshaped. If you like your brain to get reshaped all the time, every information feels like a good stimuli.
Got it. Understood. Sir, if the interaction between the founder and the newcomer is not happening, does it boil down to the attribute of the leader of that particular team?
100%. A newcomer's confidence is a function of how they were raised, how they grew up in a household, how their teachers treated them, how their environment or their previous work treated them. Right? But if you create an environment where they're like, okay, I think it's a good idea, I respect it, I think it's an interesting point of view, or explain to them why you made that choice, which they think it seems to be stupid, then they will have the luxury and the confidence to speak up. Right? But more importantly, it's about creating structures around that. Right? For example, you can just hold a meeting saying that there's a feedback meeting. No other agenda. You can't mix the feedback meeting to a non-feedback meeting. Because you can't suddenly, अरे हम discuss कर रहे हैं podcast ये वो research और by the way ये एक point भी था. You can't be in that mindset only. If they have to also find this cute reason to come up with it, that's not very helpful.
So you're saying hold special feedback sessions.
Easiest. And the intent is to listen and not defend. The moment you go into defending, you can demonstrate curiosity that where did you see the example of this? What do you think is probably causing it? Have you seen me doing this consistently or sometimes? Is this something that is happening in the company on a regular basis or sometimes? Where is it happening? Where is it not happening? Like something of that nature, right? And if you can start thinking about the impact, because sometimes you do not understand the impact. For example, sometimes you do certain things, let's say in a large org of 1,000 people, you do certain things in all hands and you behave in a certain way. By the time somebody who's 6 levels junior to you understands, they will not understand what happened. They will only realize that, oh, Kunal was angry on the stage. Words were lost. And that will not make them feel anything. Because they don't understand the context on why you are upset. Unless you explain what's really causing that.
Got it. So, as the organization scales very fast, for an organization of our size, 30, 40 people, I have the liberty to interact with everyone. But as my company is growing, I feel afraid because I'm not able to spend enough time with each person. Because of which, Amit Jain mentioned something about culture trickle down. And he said that it's a function of how much time you spend with your top leadership, and eventually how much does the top leadership spend per person in the company, and what's that ratio like? The more the ratio, the better it is for your culture, because the culture will trickle down faster, more accurately. But as the company scales, a company of your scale, how do you make sure that it happens quickly? Because as you onboard more and more people, there is a possibility that the culture may not trickle down as quick as it is supposed to be.
I think there are some scalable methods to make sure culture is, for example, at Cred, we have a few values, right, that we live by. We interview basis those values. We do appraisal basis those values, right? And our vocabulary is shaped around those values.
Oh, wow. What are those values?
For example, one of the values we have is earn trust. Right? What does that mean? It means that do everything in your capacity to earn trust of all the constituents and stakeholders you're working with. Could be a team member, could be a consumer, could be a regulator, could be a partner we work with, doesn't matter. You have to constantly be in somebody who can be trusted, right? And that automatically creates an expectation that in the interview, that do we feel trust with this person? Can this person be trusted? Can the person evoke trust from other people? And so on and so forth, right? Same thing in the appraisal. For example, extraordinary performance but rated poorly on earned trust. Should that person be promoted or not be promoted? Right? So you see that part emerge that way. The other thing is about culture eventually means what do you tolerate?
What do you tolerate?
Right? If you say earned trust is a value, but I do not care about it and I let it go in day-to-day behaviors. And when just customer choices are being made, that this will be the best thing for the consumer or not. Will it help them or not? If you do not think about these things and say, हाँ ठीक है, अभी launch कर दो, बाद में fix कर देंगे. And you don't block that launch saying that this is not good for the customer, we are going to delay a week. That's what sets the culture. Because next time, somebody will not come to negotiate this with you.
Correct. So you have to practice.
For example, one of the things that we do is we have a simple principle at Cred, not launch any product or service that we would not offer to our friends and family. Which means first we will launch it internally. We see how people are using it, adopting it, then take it to the consumers or our members. Because unless you cannot stand by it and stand behind it and be proud of it, be like thinking that this is something I will do that will improve and make the members win, why do it?
Correct.
So I think this is what culture gets set again and again and again. Right? For example, we don't believe in doing unfinished or like non-polished product. Because that's an expectation. When you launch something, people say, oh, Cred has done something. Let's see what they have done. And that can only come if you make those choices very clear that we cannot have non-polished product going out there. Right? Ke pixel nahi theek hai, symmetry is off, colors are off. Like, these are values. Right? By the way, it's not that companies who have not defined values don't have values. They do.
Yours is articulated.
Yeah. No, they exist in your behavior. For example, if I had just put 10 values at Cred and my behavior was exactly the opposite, those values will never be followed. Only my behavior will be followed.
Yeah. It's almost like parenting, no, sir? You can't
Just
teach
like
your
that.
kid to read without reading yourself.
Correct. But more importantly, it's the consistency of behavior. It's about reading once versus is that how you are? Right? If you are demonstrating intent towards consistency of good behavior, you'll be able to make other people look at it. And see, humans are mimicking animals, right? Like they will see something, they will want to be like somebody and do it. So that will continue to be the case if we do not set that as a culture. And you do understand one thing, it will always have challenges. Aisa nahi ki oh, perfect ban gaya company. Every single company, the best of the companies, have had entropies in their culture. Where they had a gap, where they said something, did something, did not explicitly say something, did not expect something, and then has to be fixed again. So what you'll notice is that if you think about the difference between religion and culture, right? Is religion evolving like a app? Okay, now this rule is cancelled. Now we are introducing this because we realize something else has changed and all of that. So, but culture is something that has to constantly evolve.
Correct.
And realize these are the bugs, these are the features. Enhance the features of your culture. For example, okay, people trust your culture. Find more ways to create trust. But if your culture has these bugs, fix them on priority. Right? So think about your culture as an app. You do release it again and again.
It's not like a one-time thing.
Make sure it's distributed. Because aapne release kar diya and nobody got to know about the app. That's also useless.
Beautiful. So can you please jot down the values of Cred? And I want to understand your evaluation criteria and how do you incentivize for following the attributes of culture. So the first value that you spoke about was earn trust. Which are the other values?
So we have multiple values. I'll try and keep some of those things. First is earn trust. We have a value called as being right a lot. We got inspired by Amazon, which is all about judgment. Have to be great at judgment, right?
Being right a lot. Okay.
Now this is a unique thing that you will see all leaders are respected if they have good judgment. It's very hard to follow somebody who has bad judgment.
Correct.
Right? Because people do not follow somebody basis what is right and wrong. They follow basis their judgment and their backbone behind that judgment. Right? But if we do not say are right a lot, like say, are you good at hiring? Are you good at making choices? Are you good at picking up something in marketing, picking up something in that? Whatever is given to you, with less data, can you make good judgment? That is a leadership trait.
So this is a little complex for me to understand. I'm thinking about how did you scale this message across the organization? Being right a lot, as in be good with judgment. Okay.
Let me explain. Let's say you are interviewing somebody for this value, that is this person good at judgment. You can easily ask a question that tell a decision that you made that most people were against or thought will not work out, and you still made it, and what did you think and how did it go? And you will see again and again. I'll give you an example of Cred. We did our first IPL campaign in peak COVID. Multiple of our board members and others recommended to us that we should not do it because IPL could shut, players could get COVID, multiple things could happen which can make the investment not work out well.
Okay.
And my thing was, this is one of my moments where you have to trust my judgment, because my view was that we focus on the top 30-40 million credit-worthy customers who were pretty much working from home, had not seen any entertainment for a while, no new movies, nothing had happened. And in that time, that IPL could be the biggest IPL because it gives the relief to people. And doing an ad at that point of time might probably the best decision. And it turned out to be true, but it was a large investment for us to make in a time that was extremely uncertain and there was no precedence. In fact, when we did this particular sponsorship or ad, I think 1 or 2 brands existed. And then it became normal for a lot of internet companies to do IPL sponsorships and others. Yeah. But when we did that time it was a counterintuitive decision. And that is what judgment is all about.
Got it.
So when you make this choice, that's, for example, when we started Cred, we said we'll focus on 30-40 million credit-worthy customers and build for that. Because we believe that's the market to build for. The rest of the market is going to take a while for building internet convenience services for them. But eventually, when every company eventually found out that only the same 30-40 million customers you have to serve for right now, and if you see every big internet company limits their MTUs in the same range, people are like, oh, you were right. You were actually focused only on that. You did not try to expand to hundreds of millions of customers, and you build for these people. And it actually worked out well. I think this is where judgment comes in. But it's also about judgment of hiring. So what if you interviewed 20 people and 15 of them turned out to be bad hires and we had to find a way to not work with them in 2-3 years? Then how are you good at judgment? Because interview is an imperfect process to hire.
Correct.
It is probably the most archaic method of knowing somebody. But if you work with somebody for 3 months, you'll know if they're good or not.
What's your hiring methodology, sir? If you think interviews are king.
No, we try to get a lot of data from interviews, but more importantly, just values, right? Values are a good indicator. But one of the things that I've seen that people maintain their slope, right? If you've started here, got here, you have something. And it doesn't matter what this and what this is. The degree maintains itself, right? Very few people change their slope degree like this.
Can you explain that, sir?
Let's say you started from very humble beginnings and you managed to, within 15 years, reach a certain position. That mathematically seems very odd for somebody to get this level of growth in a short period of time. Those guys will continue to grow, right? But let's say you were privileged and started from here and your growth has been only this much. Then you'll maintain that also, right? So a lot of people maintain their slope. The degree doesn't change. And that you will see again and again. But sometimes what happens is somebody has a life event. For example, you'll say, oh, this thing did a startup. Then startup failed. Sometimes you go see them go like this after that.
Yeah.
Because life event makes you realize, what are you bad at? We love hiring a lot of ex-founders because we've seen one interesting pattern. They're usually very self-aware on what do they suck at. So they are much more open for feedback and much faster, and they have the need to be right and the need to be successful after that, which you don't have to motivate them. If you have to hire people that you need to motivate, then your company is not going to become a big company. Imagine you building a elite team to win in cricket, and your core problem is motivating team. You're unlikely to go on the main stage and win. Because what I have seen is that, motivation is very intrinsic in most cases. You can create an environment where that intrinsic motivation gets even bigger.
Yeah.
It's very hard to make somebody ambitious also.
Yeah.
Right? You can enhance their ambition. You can expand their ambition. But can you make somebody ambitious? Unlikely to happen. Right? And I'm not saying that everybody should be of that type. There are all types of people who work at different things. People have different expectations from life. But you have to be very clear, what do you want? Right? If you are looking for very ambitious people and you've not had very ambitious people and you're constantly making their life miserable, that's your problem.
Correct.
You could have very easy saying that I do not want to work with less ambitious people. I'm a platform. So I tell people at Cred that I am a platform for the ambitious people to achieve their absolute excellence.
Okay.
But I am not going to be the ones who will give a motivational speech and get them to get motivated. In fact, if they need motivational speeches to get motivated, they have bad news all their life. They're unlikely to do well. Right? And that's what I often worry about all these motivational speakers that we have now, which are giving you motivation. You feel great for 10 minutes and your life is same after that.
One interesting thing that I read in Mr. B's document is that there are only A players and B players. Very rarely does the transition happen from one category to the other.
Correct.
So initially I had this mindset, you can motivate people, you can change people. But then eventually after reading that document, I realized that it's actually a very 0-1 process. Either somebody is an A player or a B player. Sometimes the value mismatch might happen because of which your definition of A player might be different from somebody else's definition of A player. But primarily from your lens, if somebody is an A, he's an A. If somebody is a B, they will be a B.
It's usually not a permanent state. It's harder to change states, but it's not a permanent state. For example, I told you a failed founder will suddenly become an absolute A+ person because now their life's motivation is unlocked in a different way. Because they went through a setback.
Yeah.
How do people react to setbacks is a very good sign of A and B, not their current state. Most people who are B do not have any setbacks in life only because they don't attempt any risky behavior.
Or maybe they react badly to setbacks.
If they react badly to setbacks, they're unlikely to encounter more setbacks. They will take more non-risky approaches to life. So they will have that outcome with life. But if you're constantly going and risking something, you're risking your reputation, you're risking your judgment, you're risking some choices, right? You're automatically creating more growth for them. Look at somebody young in the company who grows well. They will consistently risk their reputation and say, can I do more? And then prove they did more. So you'll want to give the more to them, right? And their growth happens automatically because they just are constantly willing to take the risk and do something that is beyond their current capacity of doing things.
Yeah.
But most people are trying to be very close to the current capacity of doing things. So their growth will happen at that level. If you're trying to achieve something that is beyond your capacity, they will do differently. They will fail much more, for sure. But how do they react to failure? Most people get deeply impacted by setbacks, right? And it's very hard for them to recover.
Yeah.
And yes, sometimes the setbacks are quite severe, right? But the question is that if you want to be type A player, it's your reaction to setbacks. And I think that's what you will see in best athletes also. If you see some of the tennis players who make it big, they will say, how do they react to a bad point or bad set? You will see them like they go exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
After that. Some of them go the exact opposite after that. The question is that what drives you?
Got it. And so these ex-founders that you mentioned, have you noticed a pattern where there are two types of ex-founders? Ex-founders who have tried and they have their own belief system which has become rigid. And there are ex-founders who had the values that were right. Maybe they were in the wrong market. Maybe they tried the wrong product. But those intrinsic values remain the same. It's just that after coming to Cred, they have a new direction. And in that direction, they just accelerate.
I think the easiest sign is that when you ask them, why did the startup fail? How much do they externalize?
How much do they blame the market versus blaming
They will
themselves?
blame the market, they'll blame their co-founder, they'll blame their investors, they'll blame COVID, they will blame everything. Except themselves, that I had terrible judgment about almost everything. So you will see who's going to be coachable or not.
Could it be a function of both, sir? Terrible judgment of the market and the market being bad?
No startup goes through a perfect journey. Right? In fact, entrepreneurs create wealth because they remove uncertainty from people's lives. They remove uncertainty from employees' life. They remove uncertainty from investors' life. They remove uncertainty from customers' life. So their life is going to be more uncertain. You have to win despite that. If you are not in that game, if you are not somebody who's seen as people who take somebody's uncertainties away, you're less likely to become successful.
Correct.
So yes, tell me one startup that any success of any type that did not meet with extreme uncertainties. In fact, the prize money is to win against uncertainty.
Correct.
Right? But we are like, oh, ye ho gaya, I fall. Yeah, sure, big deal. But we often forget. And therefore, a certain type survives as a founder. But you can see their signs early also. Like, think about all your friends that you would say, yaar, this person, despite uncertainty, will achieve this goal or will solve this problem.
Yeah.
Ye kar lega.
It instantly clicks.
Or she will just figure it out. I don't know. I need to explain how. It is to be just told to her and she'll figure it out. Those are the exact type of people who become great founders. Or extraordinary team members. But if you cannot feel that about somebody, that this person will figure it out, and you have to constantly coach, watch, review, check.
Then they actually are failing in the first title, which is earning trust.
Not earning trust. It's about their ability to have high agency to get stuff done. They will figure out the problem, understand the solutions, and find a way to get there. They will get from point A to point B despite all the obstacles that are there on the way. It's nothing to do with trust. It's about, I will get from point A to point B. They have this deep need to just get there. If it's hustle, if it's solving a problem, if it's improving their skills, if it's about convincing somebody, doesn't matter. Every obstacle on the way, they will get it done.
High agency. So, sir, earn trust, being right a lot.
Yes.
Would you also include high agency in your values?
Yes. We do. We have some version of it called a skin in the game, but high agency is a better way of saying it. And the simple way to think about high agency is that there are two types of people. People who happen to universe and people where universe happens to them.
Okay.
It's very simple, right? This person happens to universe, and this person always universe happens to them.
Reactive and proactive.
No, I think the way to think about this is that this person will make the change to universe and bend it the way they want it to be, and this person is always victim of the environment and circumstances.
Yeah.
ये हो गया, वो हो गया, ये हो गया. Like you ask them, ये क्यों नहीं हुआ? They will have extraordinary explanation and excuses, and they're right in all of their explanation excuses. But the best people who happen to the universe will not give you excuses. They'll say, I just did not get it done. Next week करता हूँ.
That is so true, sir. Every time you say something, it just resonates with me so well that I'm able to figure out an example and a person with whom this has happened. Beautiful. So you're saying high agency. And what else, sir? Do we have more values?
Yeah, we have quite a few. We have something called as compounding. Are they continuous? Are they evolving rapidly? Are they somebody who are going to become a different person every 6 months, 1 year? Which comes from their own ability to learn, change, break their beliefs, improve their skills, constantly evolve. Right? And it's very, very hard to make people evolve unless they are designed to evolve. Evolution is compounding, one of the skills that cannot be taught. You are that type. So we look for those types who are evolving quite rapidly on their own. They're not waiting for from workshops to be done in the company, or they want to do somebody has to come and tell them something. They're just compounding people. They are just constantly evolving. When you tell them what has evolved, if you ask them, what did you learn last month? They will have an answer, a good answer. If you tell them, what did you change about your belief last month? They'll have something, right? And they are changing quite a lot, right? And evolving people are interesting because they are able to react to environments also faster. We are entering a world where it's changing so quickly that if you have no compounding person, they're going to get disrupted by the current world.
Correct.
So compounding people are a little bit like protecting against inflation of the rate of change of the world. If you have that capability, you will be always ahead when the world is changing, right? For example, these are the exact same people who are using AI for everything, not just improving the grammar. They found a way to leverage this for doing something. They're not waiting for some tutorial to come. They're just there. They're just applying themselves and getting it done, right? And it doesn't matter what their age is. You will see some of the sharpest people are just compounding. They're like, I need to learn, I need to figure out, I need to ask somebody, I need to figure out something, I need to check. Their reaction to new information, their reaction to a situation that breaks their belief is different. You will see that. They will lean in to find out what do you mean versus who will start defending their belief.
So I'll give you an example and you help me understand if this is how you apply this. Let's say I am interviewing for an HR position. If I have to gauge compounding and I want to apply this principle of yours, I would ask this person, which are the 3 AI tools that you've used to change the way the recruiting process happens in an organization? Because they must have worked previously somewhere, and AI is this change that's happening to the world right now. And if somebody has been an HR, they must be inherently curious to understand which are the AI tools which can make their job easier if they have this attribute of compounding.
So the right framework is to not get bottled by tools.
Okay.
It's about efficiency, right? If I told you that I have to solve this problem and I'm going to give you 1/3 the cost, 1/3 the time, how will you do it? AI is just one method.
Understood.
Let me give you an example. Let's say I am going to give you a question right now. And let's say we have your team also who have to also solve the same problem. I am going to tell you what is the gender ratio of patients right now in the hospital that is nearby, where is Kokilabin hospital over here, right? And I'll tell you, I need the answer in 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Okay? Let's make it 60 minutes. Okay? Everybody will think differently, right? अभी AI use करना है नहीं use करना है क्या use करना है doesn't matter. I want the answer of high accuracy in 60 minutes. Right? What is the easiest answer according to you? In 60 minutes, I want high accuracy answer.
I'll make 3 attempts actually. Either see if there's any publicly available information.
Correct.
B, call them. Or C, go down and sit down there for 60 minutes.
Perfect. So you do not use AI for this. But if you tell people how will you use tools, then they will just worrying about AI. None of the answers required you to solve with AI. You just found the most efficient part. The efficient path actually is probably walking up there, making a request to the receptionist or somebody saying that, or the billing counter, saying that I am part of this project. I need some help. I need just only this indicative information of what is the approximate gender ratio of the patients right now in the hospital. Most likely they'll tell you the answer. But everybody who uses all the other scientific methods are not being efficient. And this is a problem of asking questions on which tool will you use.
Got it. We're just narrowing down the possibility.
How will you solve this problem in the most efficient manner?
Got it. Understood, sir.
And that is a real challenge for most of us because we don't think in efficiency. We are looking for some method of solving the math sum.
Or maybe a cool method.
Yeah, more than cool method is like, we don't want to apply, okay, what is the most efficient path to solve this problem? You don't have to use AI.
Got it.
Sometimes using AI is a good idea. But often, you will never see people really apply the efficiency lens. So the interview processes can be problematic if you start going to ask, which AI tools do you use in HR? No. For example, if you ask the same person that I have this particular position open for last 2 months, if I told you I want to close this in 3 days, how will you solve it?
Got it.
So, and this is what I see in startups also. Many startups will only become successful because they do not make something efficient. They just say, I have made AI fashion tool, AI stylist who will make you style. I don't care about that maybe. But I might care about how do you fix this button on my shirt efficiently and might be interested in that problem as a large enough problem to be solved. I don't know. I'm just making this example up, but like sometimes we apply technology and tools for the sake of it. Nobody wants that.
True.
For example, the reason I don't think we have found a wedding unicorn in India so far because people are not seeking efficiency sometimes. Right? Our people are like, okay, look at the best Mehndi artist in Bombay, immediately Mumbai, like let me get... No, sometimes you want to ask 10 people and reach out to them socially, feel good about sharing this information and then inviting somebody from your reference. Because it's an event to connect socially also. I'm not looking for efficiency. I'm looking for inefficiency, an excuse to reach out to people.
Yeah.
So that I feel special about them making recommendations to me.
Sir, now that you've said that, while I got married, I actually made some very efficient recommendations to my wife, expecting that she'll be very happy. But turns out I was the one who actually got fired because I did not understand that it's about the process and not about efficiency.
Exactly. So often we tend to not understand that what is really important at what point of time. And this is where the nuance of leading, nuance of building, nuance of creating comes from.
Yeah. Sir, how do you evaluate if somebody's compounding or not in your organization by design?
It's very simple. It's a relative term, right? If I ask the question that is this absolutely, if you ask the question, is this person demonstrating the highest learning ability? Where they're compounding, people are also good at teaching. You will see that people who are great at learning are also great at teaching.
Okay.
Right? If they're great at learning and not good at teaching, they're not able to compound. Because sometimes clarity comes when you explain, not when you learn.
But what if people, let's look at, some science nerds. Like I have friends who are pursuing PhDs. They learn a lot. They're just terrible at articulation.
Perfect. So success may not come at the same level versus the PhDs who can articulate.
True.
They will have better success than non-PhDs or people who are not educated. Sure. But will they have a disproportionately higher success? Because in PhD also you have to get funding.
Yeah. So you have to sell.
So just by saying that, oh, just because I'm a nerd, I will not be good at persuasion, is not a good excuse. If you have to win at any human game, you have to be good at persuasion. Doesn't matter if you're a PhD or a scientist or a politician or an entrepreneur or almost anybody. The entire human game is about a human game of persuasion.
So communication and articulation is also an important attribute to gauge if somebody can compound quickly or not.
It's a good sign, because you will see that their blocker. Imagine you're a leader and you can't teach. Their team is going to be always in pain.
Yeah.
The guy is not even explaining what has to be done properly. Neither he or she is coaching me on how to go about doing this. Neither this person is able to teach me how to do this well the way he or she does today. Then they are going to have terrible experience for the people who report to them. But the best people would be, you always learn something from them. They make you better. You feel, oh my God, I'm going to come and talk to my friends. I learned something new today. This person gave me a new insight. This person taught me something, right? By the way, that big trap of the podcast world, which I have often mentioned, is that people have gotten addicted to just listening to this stuff and applying nothing.
Yeah.
That's the worst, by the way. Because now I feel that every time I meet a young person, they are usually the last 10 short clips or last 10 reels they have watched.
True.
So you ask them second order question, कि इसका मतलब क्या है? Nothing. Because they picked up some viral clips here and there with no depth. So what I'm worried about, we are entering a world of becoming sounding smart without really being able to explain with depth on what have you understood.
True.
And that also comes when you're able to say, I'm going to become good at teaching what I've learned. Because the students will ask you one random question. If you don't understand the subject, we all had teachers who could not explain, no?
Correct.
We all had teachers like that. And we all had teachers who would be so passionate about the subject. You bring any topic here and there, they'll go really deep and explain to you.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the subjects that we loved were where the teachers were best.
True.
Nothing to do with our ability to do with the subject.
Yeah. Nothing to do with the complexity of the subject as well.
Exactly. So the thing is that, therefore, leadership is exactly that. Let's say if you work in this great company, but your leader is terrible, your experience of the whole company is bad. You will wonder why the hell everybody else is happy in this company. My experience is terrible.
And when it comes to, let's say, so what would be the percentage of people who are compounding at Cred and who are not compounding at Cred? Because I'm assuming it's not ideal.
See, it's always a ratio, right? But percentage of people compounding, ratio of compounding at Cred versus non-Cred is even more important.
Okay.
Versus
what
worrying
ratio
about
would
things.
be like?
I don't know. I would like to say it's probably high, and therefore we'll probably do okay in life.
Okay.
But the one clear sign of that is that we are not doing okay. If all of our metrics are in the red and not growing and not improving consistently year over year, then people are also not compounding.
Yeah.
I am not compounding. Sometimes we will have a bad year here and there. Every company goes through that. But how do we recover from that? How do we recover from a setback? That's going to matter even more. Right? And what you'll notice in India is our reaction as a country to things that we don't understand is usually fear or mock it.
Okay.
Right? So you'll see that our early reaction to businesses is the same. Right? We either fear, oh my God, like for example, the easiest thing to say that, oh, this company is stealing data. Right? Who would build a high reputation company if their business was like stealing data, right? But the thing is that it's the easiest thing to do when you cannot understand what this company does. For example, if I told you that we are consistently improving people's behavior with their money, improving their credit scores, improving the repayment of credit card behaviors, all of that, and make it easy for banks and merchants to discover these customers and so on and so forth, and we make money on that, that's a boring answer. The other thing is mock, right? Like, oh, this company is that. But the thing is that sometimes companies, let's say we announced our results last year, we are 2,000 crores plus thing, but we had no revenue 3 years ago. And how many companies in the public market more than 2,000 crores revenue?
Yeah.
These questions are not even known, right? So what happens is we will judge for the right reasons that, oh, we think this company is making losses. Correct. But why would somebody fund these companies who are making losses? That question we don't ask.
Correct.
If it's safe to assume that this person who's investing in these companies are not very smart, but then they would not be given so much money.
Correct.
So we have to think about these choices. And what I'm saying, that learning and compounding is about asking questions. Why do people fund loss-making companies? Great question. Versus fear them or mock them. And that's what creates this interesting learning experience that people embark on when they convert their fear into curiosity.
So if I have to apply and evaluate compounding to my organization of, let's say, 30 people, how should I go about it? What's the step-by-step process to go about it?
First of all, you have to live that value.
Okay.
Second is that you cannot be live the value by just saying stuff. You have to be doing stuff.
Yeah.
If I give all this gyan and I do nothing in the company, and I'm not seen as somebody who's changing by the team who gives me feedback, then nobody believes that I'm a compounding person.
Got it. Step number 1, practice.
Yeah. The second thing is that what kind of things that you pay attention to. For example, do you encourage asking good questions or do you ask good questions? That makes people think. If you do a review of somebody, will that be a painful experience, also a great learning experience? Because sometimes we think review is like, "Arey boss, khali danda karna hai." We have to ask people, "Kya hua, kya nahi." What if it turns into a learning experience also? What if they say, "Oh my God, how did this person figure this out? What did they see? How did they figure out this pattern?" And then it becomes a practice to live. Right? So slowly, we have to understand this and build this culture.
So ask good questions and encourage good questions.
Encourage good questions. And sometimes, like one of the things that we have seen, at least in India, we have killed curiosity in people, is when we mock people's random curiosity. Let's say you are a 10-year-old and you demonstrate random curiosity about something that has nothing to do with your studies. And I say the parents told this person, "Arey, itna curiosity isme dikhaya hota, to full marks aa gaya hota ab tak." So what are you doing? Neither they will become full marks person, neither they become curious.
Correct.
So end outcome is net negative. Right? People will demonstrate curiosity towards things that they find interesting. But what if you made them feel that they are so curious that they will find everything interesting? Right? A simple ritual that I recommend to a lot of people who have young kids is, what if you asked one why question every day that they have to figure out an answer by tomorrow? Okay. Right? I call it the Wi-Fi school, WHYFI school. Let's say you ask them, why is flying in planes more expensive than train? It may be intuitive to you. It may not be intuitive to somebody who's 8-10 year old.
Yeah.
But what if you give this question and told them, tomorrow's meal, you will give me the answer. And you figure out whichever way you want. They'll come up with an answer. But you say, I will not take an answer. I'll ask you questions further. You have to answer those also. So you can't give me a one-line answer.
So that brings depth.
That brings depth. But if you do this for 3-4 years consistently with one question a day, they'll become great. And by the way, in the second year, you can tell them to come up with a question instead of you giving the question. Then you come up with a why question. I'll say, great, let's find the answer to that. Come back with an answer tomorrow. What will happen naturally, they will not stop at one a day. They'll build 100 a day in their life. And if you start understanding how and why certain things happen, they'll solve problems. They'll understand things.
Sir, have you ever practiced this with your niece or nephew?
Yeah, I mean, I tried, but it's not an easy thing to do because you have to have consistency behind it.
Yeah.
Right? You have to create this, at least people I have given recommendation, if they've tried it, they have seen dramatic improvements. So I get feedback loop from them that this has changed and increase the maturity of those kids because suddenly they have turned their attention to going deeper into subjects and going to a wide and never judge what are they curious about. Because the moment you apply judgment to curiosity, you're first killing curiosity.
Correct.
First job is to encourage curiosity. Then channelize it. Because they will automatically know how to apply this in their work. If they become great at solving why, they'll naturally become good at solving problems at work. Correct. For example, let's say you are trying to build this podcast and I said, why don't you have 50 million followers? And it was a genuine question. You will start thinking about it.
Correct.
Then I'll say, okay, so these answers are the barriers. You will say, they are not aware about this topic, about our things. Then you will say, they're not interested in this topic. You will say that, oh, I have language as a barrier. You will come up with all these things. Now you can make choices to remove barriers. Correct. And grow the numbers. But if you do not do a good job of answering this question of why don't you have 50 million followers, you will never compound around this topic.
True.
And sometimes you will discover that sometimes when you ask people about the why question, especially when you ask young people, they'll have the sharpest answer. I'll tell you why they have sharpest answers. Because their mind is not clouded by all this podcast that we are all hearing. They have simple minds. And simple minds usually come up with cleaner answers.
Correct.
So sometimes when you ask these questions to younger people, you ask a younger person, why didn't this movie not work? They'll have a much more cleaner answer than somebody who's like educated from the industry, all of that.
Understood. Sir, how do you evaluate high agency?
Same thing. That what did you do which was not asked to do? How did you solve a problem that had huge headwinds to it? What are the things that you were not expected in your role and you still did it? Right? People who are doing kaam se kam are not high agency people. People who raise their hands for things that are not projects. Right? We sometimes call them enthu cutlets.
Enthu cutlets?
Yeah. Because they're enthusiastic about raising hands for every project. Those are the people who do well. Right? They are expanding their scope of problem solving.
Got it. So, do all the leaders of all teams evaluate these parameters on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis?
No, we do this on an appraisal basis, which is when it's happening once a year, and when we are interviewing. But the thing is, the vocabulary is all around these topics. For example, we have a vocabulary called truth-seeking is one of our value.
Truth-seeking.
Yeah. Now, this is an interesting value because truth-seeking automatically removes hierarchy. If you're trying to seek truth about topic, it doesn't matter who and who's saying what. Yeah. It's about the truth. Right? For example, if I ask the same question, why don't we have 50 million followers? Your answers may be different than somebody who's young in your team.
Correct.
And then suddenly I might see their answers to be more valuable and more truth-seeking than yours because you're stuck with biases of the past.
Yeah.
But they might have a very fresh perspective.
How do you tie this to appraisals?
Simple. Like when you're looking at review that you say that how did they do on all these values? You say they're doing well, not doing well. And that is usually a blocker on why they're not doing well.
So is there a scale?
Yeah, we just put scale of exceeds, meets, does not meet. Simple.
Got it.
Not a complex thing. But mostly we know. If I told you have 30 employees, I'm going to ask you how many of them demonstrate. In fact, I ask you to name each of them who demonstrate, यार इसको बोल दिया कुछ भी हो जाएगा. ये कर देगा, ये figure out. Or if I give her this problem of solving this very complex thing, she will go deep into it for a week and figure it out.
Yeah.
So you will give me name very easily.
Correct. That's exactly what I was discussing before the podcast, sir.
Okay. So the thing is that we know this. But let's say if they don't know this.
Yeah. That was my question.
So the easiest thing to do is that even they will vote. If you ask the same group, name 3 people in the company or 4 people, the list will match yours. Usually.
Got it.
Right? So it's not that awareness, but is it an important value for success? Is that understood?
Understood.
Right?
Got it.
And it's a very hard thing to consistently be that person. Because high agency comes at a cost, because you are going to be probably working harder, applying yourselves, pushing harder. Not everybody wants to do that. And I don't believe that we can make people do that. We can encourage them to do that. But ultimately, it's about their own values and their own goals and their own ambition.
Understood. So this was supposed to be actually the smallest segment.
Okay.
It turned out to be 1.5 hours. But thank you so much, sir. This is really insightful. So now I want to throw light on the Indian consumer behavior. I've seen you speak a lot about Indian consumer behavior being very unique as compared to the behavior in the West. What are the most stark observations that you made about Indian consumers, which is different from the West?
I think the simpler frameworks to think about is that what do we value versus the West, and what are the reasons of the way they are. For example, we value efficiency differently because we perceive time differently, right? Nobody in India has been paid an hourly salary, so we don't think an hourly salary or an hourly thing. But also our language is not very precise. If you go and watch international content, they'll say 2 blocks right, 63 degrees to the west, this, that. They will speak this language, all of that, and not in like some only military movies. They speak that language in real life. Over here, we'll say, "Arey, thoda sa aage jaake left, thoda sa aage dikhega samne kuch to," right? We speak in precise language, and therefore our value of time or value of preciseness is not very high, and therefore it's not efficiency driven.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore you will notice that what we value basis that is different. Right? We do not value productivity as much, right? Or efficiency as much. We value entertainment more sometimes. We value things, knowing about people more than knowing about events. Or knowing about phenomena, right? And therefore I was asking the question that why do you have X amount of followers versus some other content channel which will have hundreds of millions of followers, and you will see it solves for a very different need. And that has a much larger TAM versus this.
Correct.
Right? But if you think further on this topic and say that, hey, how will the customer behavior change? It's like what metric do we make important, right? For example, if everybody, let's say if we made it illegal to have arranged marriage, it is punishable by law, then everybody will become good at sales.
Correct.
Because you put a constraint. So people figured out. Because the core motivation to have a partner in your life is innate, is biological in nature, and therefore you will find a way to do that. Right? But if you say that it is something that is not needed, you just have to be doing well in life and somebody else will source, then you will not build that skill. It's not needed. Right? So therefore you will see that what do we value, right? What gets appreciated and applauded, right? This whole celebrating entrepreneurs is a very recent thing and still at a very small level, right? But look at the problematic side of it. We're only celebrating funded founders or funding.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurship existed much before any of these entrepreneurs existed.
Correct.
Like me. And we don't even know these people. People have built very large companies with hundreds of crores of revenue, hundreds of crores of profit. They're not known. And we only celebrated this funded startups. So now everybody thinks entrepreneurship is equal to funding.
Correct.
Which is not true. Right? And we've already moved to things like Shark Tank and funding and angel investments because that's what we think business. First step is funding.
Yeah.
Means businesses have existed for centuries before. Nobody thought of funding first. A lot of people borrowed from their family, friends, their spouses and built businesses. And that was a norm. But we have started celebrating something more. So the society gets shaped basis that, right? Other things are around increasing our awareness, right? As a developing nation, we will have our own thing to get aware about the world. For example, let's say if I go to a country and only have fine Indian food and have it over there, I'm limiting my expansion.
Correct.
Right? If I just watch the world like I'm entering a zoo. Then I'm going to observe things and come back. Then you're unlikely to get shaped by it.
What do you mean by that, sir?
Think about it this way, right? Let's say you go to a country, you go see things as if you are observing things and animals in a zoo. You just see those people, you just see these monuments, you see the things and you don't interact. You don't get to know, you don't understand their values, you don't understand what they care about. Right? And then how will you exchange ideas? Right? But you'll see many people who travel from the West to India, they'll demonstrate interest in your curiosity for your culture or your cuisine, your choices, your weddings, your festivals. They want to know why you make certain choices the way you do. Right? And that shapes you. It makes you more aware or worldly in nature.
Yeah.
But if you are somebody who demonstrates no curiosity, I'm going to just watch this as a zoo and come back, unaffected by the travel, which most people are. They're unaffected by travel.
Yeah.
Then their evolution is limited.
Correct. Sir, you mentioned about funding. If you have to put out a framework which can help an entrepreneur evaluate whether they need funding or not, and if yes, where should they go and seek it from? What would that framework be?
First of all, scaling anything requires capital. Capital can come from your own profits or can come from external capital. The only purpose of capital is to accelerate growth at the cost of you giving away your equity. In the past, nobody got funding, so their equity was 100% owned by. So 99% of India's businesses are owned by the person who started the business. Correct. Nobody shares the ownership. Right? And they would start with borrowing 5 lakh rupees from their uncle, set up a shop, built it, made some money, used that money to second another shop, and so on and so forth. That's how businesses ran. Always. But now we are saying, oh, I have this idea that can go very fast. If I got capital, it can become big. Right? And people are giving it to you. But capital is not the reason to start the business. Right? Unfortunately, the news coverage is so much higher. Let's take an example of you're somebody trying to invest in companies. When somebody invests in early stage startups, 90% of funded startups don't make it. So why do they invest? Imagine, otherwise if I told somebody कि आप जो भी invest करोगे 90% पैसा डूबने वाला है. So why would you invest? You would say, only if the 10% will make more money than what I have invested in total, I'll invest.
Yeah.
Right? Simple framework. Now, how do they identify? They are saying that I should invest in a business that can become very big. But some businesses are naturally limited. They cannot become very big. Correct. Because you're addressing a very small segment.
Yeah.
So capital will come for a choice that if I know the success are low, but agar solve ho gaya. For example, let's say you and I start a startup which is going to solve a particular type of cancer through some medication. First of all, let's say I'm an investor, we are taking to investor, they will first evaluate if this problem gets solved, will this be a huge financial outcome?
Yeah.
Potentially, yes. But let's say if we are solving a very rare cancer that only impacts 6 people a year, no capital is coming for us.
Correct.
Even if we're the smartest people to solve this problem. Is this problem to be solved? Yes. Are 6 people important? Yes. Is it worthy of investment? Probably no. The second thing, they will say, okay, let's say they are going after a very big case of cancer. Are these the right people who can solve this? Do they have the right competence, right agency, right learning ability, right knowledge, right connections, right network, right storytelling abilities to be solving this problem? Let's say they give you capital for that. Right? And they are hoping that it will become very big. But a lot of times, a lot of businesses are very small in terms of target at a total addressable market. They say, Arey yaar, they give this stupid company funding, मेरा तो business इतना clear है, funding नहीं दे रहा. And it's easy to mock this, but if you think from an investor's perspective, they know 90% is going to fail. They are looking for those opportunities to make it a 80x, 100x, 200x return.
So unless you have a big TAM, you should not seek investment.
Or TAM, or the unique problem solving ability that you have gone for the TAM is huge. For example, multiple people invested in AI for billions of dollars with no product, no technology, but they said if this gets solved, how big can it be?
The possibility.
Correct. And you have the right team behind it who's thinking about this and building it. It's a combination of those things. So a lot of times what I've seen, our understanding of TAM is very weak. If you explain somebody that, hey, this is a limited TAM business. For example, I said, I'm sorry, I'm putting you at spot again and again with your podcast, right?
That's okay, sir.
If we said that, hey, we've called it a certain brand, we are trying to address a certain market and we are going to achieve a certain goal. There are some natural limitations on how much can it grow. If you are given a goal that, okay, you have to become 1,000 crore company, this cannot be the mold you can operate with. This can be a starting point.
Yeah.
But to become a much larger company, you have to think about how do I break these limitations, right? And often we get stuck and understanding the country's core motivation. For example, you might discover that a trend that seems stupid is going to make 1,000 crores.
Correct.
Like, he kya hai?
Labubu, sir.
Exactly. Now the thing is that, is it a business? No, it's a trend. As more people will have it, nobody will care about it.
Correct.
Which means there's a short-term opportunity to make money and that's it. But you will say, how can my great idea to solve this problem raise less money to this stupid trend? It's about the TAM and longevity of that business. So anyways, the point I'm making is often we do not understand business's basics. If we were to push ourselves as an investor, right, we will ask these questions. But if our reaction to investing is also emotional. For example, imagine you saw something on television or somebody making a startup idea and you're like, oh, ये तो लगता है बड़ा होगा, and you put money, but you don't understand how markets work, how scale works. Right? For example, you can always hear, oh, this person is going to solve cancer, or you will say this person is going to solve a rare cancer that only impacts 6 people a year.
Yeah.
Changes the equation.
Correct.
But that's the depth of asking that question. Sometimes these things really create the outcome.
Understood. Sir, you mentioned about people getting the TAM wrong. How would you calculate TAM?
There is no method of calculating TAM. It's about thinking where is the starting point and what can it become.
Okay.
Right? Let's say you start with this particular thing and that's how you build an audience. Tomorrow, you might come and say, I'm going to build an MBA school out of this. And I can really get students to come and pay for it. Suddenly, a TAM grew from a podcast to this. But that is a harder leap to make. Correct. First, are you respected enough that people will pay you lakhs of rupees of fees to join your course? That's a harder problem. Correct. Right? But the real thing that will be tested, what is the single biggest reason people pay a lot of fees for MBA school? Any guesses?
Placements.
Exactly. So all this stuff about we have more knowledge, more this, nobody really cares.
It's the core offering.
It's the core offering.
That they think is important.
Yeah. If you do not solve that, all your ideas that I will actually teach better than other professors are saying, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Every MBA school of India will die overnight if placement is banned. And that's the single line truth. Everything is backwards of that outcome. If you don't have that outcome, you're unlikely to create a good business out of it.
Understood. Because, sir, from whatever you taught me about hiring as of now, it has changed my perspective. In fact, I was speaking to this founder of Plevo. This is early when I was just struggling. I did not know how hiring worked. Because sometimes I felt like I was intimidating the candidate. Sometimes I felt like I was cutting them too much slack. So I was not able to figure this out at all. And that's where frameworks really helped me a lot. Where when I was speaking to this guy, his name is Venkat, and he gave me something very similar to what you said. And that really solved my problem. He said that the company is a reflection of the entrepreneur. So if you are the founder of the company, all you're supposed to do is jot down the 5 most important values that you practice every single day that has enabled you to build this company. Once you jot that down, then during the interview, during the hiring process, your job is to check if the people that you're hiring exhibit the same values or not. Their exhibition may be of a different category, but the act of exhibition needs to happen. If that happens, you're pretty much good to go. And once they come into the company, just like you mentioned, there has to be a calculated evaluation strategy by which you're consistently keeping a check on people whether they are following those attributes or not.
If I had taught you the same lesson when you were in 8th standard, what would you do with it?
No, I'll come to that, sir. I'll come to that. When I learned this at the age of 23, 22, it gave me a more efficient model to recruit.
I get it. That's why I'm asking a very specific question. What if you learned this in 8th standard?
It
You'll
won't
not
be
build
useful.
a company.
No, it won't be useful.
So what I'm saying is that there is usefulness at the right time of doing certain things.
Correct.
Right? The moment we do is, we try to put this all part of the curriculum. I'm going to teach you 5 frameworks of hiring when you are in 8th standard. Absolutely pointless.
Correct. No, I'm not talking about School of Entrepreneurship from between.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's about where do you intervene and create that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that the easiest thing, by the way, I can tell you, instead of asking me or Venkat, if you ask ChatGPT right now, here are the things that I'm going through in my hiring process. Here are the mistakes. How do I improve? Give me 3 practical ideas I can practice this week. It'll give you a better answer. So I think the world, see, please understand, when I was growing up, information was not available. You had to really go to library, meet somebody, know somebody, and then information will come.
Correct.
And internet happened. And boom, it was all in the air. Now, all the mentorship advice are on the air. One question away. Who's asking those questions? What are we really doing with these tools? If you look at most people's use case, it's nothing to make them better.
Correct.
They're doing some time pass with it.
Yeah.
Same thing with internet. Same internet can be used to do absolute time pass or become dramatically better or dramatically smart. Tools don't change the outcome. Tools enhance what you already are.
Understood. I want to talk to you about sales. And because we've spoken so much about the Indian consumer, considering the fact that we are a trust deficit society, considering the fact that we go for more bragworthy propositions than actual efficient propositions, if somebody were to sell to the Indian consumer, is there a method that you think will work well?
Every sales is an act of solving somebody else's problem. And every act of solving somebody's problem is to understand what is the problem and how much it matters to them in their life.
Okay.
For example, let's say somebody is having a health issue in their family and you are trying to sell to them some sunscreen. It's not going to work.
Correct.
Their mind is occupied somewhere else, right? But somebody who is in the frame of mind to looking for a solution, you can sell it to them. Oftentimes, we have no empathy to what do they want. The best salespeople often not sell what they have. They just solve the problem and build a relationship. Let's say you go to sell the sunscreen and this person talks about some health issue with their parents. If you got them a doctor's appointment that they have struggled with, that relationship may eventually result in a sunscreen sale. But what people do, sir, sunscreen, madam, sunscreen, no, okay, next. Can you become the person that they rely on? Can you become the person that they look up for solutions? Can you become the person that they feel is going to do something that will actually help this person versus help you? Sales will happen.
Yeah.
If your intent to be unempathetic and sell what you have, that's not going to create any sales. Let's think about relationship and entrepreneurship in the same way. let's say you are in a college and you are trying to propose somebody to potentially date you. And you have no interest in understanding what they really care about, want, desire, expect. And you stay the way you are and you go again and again. Like the classic behavior of India DMs, hi, hello, hey, hello, hello, hi, right? Unlikely to do anything. Same way in raising capital. What if you never understood what the investors care about? Expect kind of founders they like to invest in. You have done no work to understand that. And you keep sending them pitches. Every day in hopes. Because that's what we think. कि 10 बार भेजेंगे तो click होगा.
Correct.
But take no effort to figure out what do they care about.
Yeah.
Or what do they want to solve in life. And that's what makes us weak at sales.
Got it. Sir, I have too much to digest. I don't want to ask you more questions because you've already given us too much time. And I have too much to digest, and I'm sure that's the same thing that the people are also feeling because they've taken too many notes. And until I work on that, again, it's just going to be information overload. But sir, we would love to have you again because I have another 2 pages of questions to ask you. But I think it's important to churn the information and apply that instead of just having more information.
Awesome.
Sir, thank you so much. And also, it was wonderful to debate with you, sir, at the Zero One Fest.
Absolutely. I wish whatever you're doing eventually gets more people to act. What I remain worried about is that we are creating a culture of just listening to too much and feeling intelligent a little bit. I think intelligence and wisdom comes when we apply. And I would strongly recommend that you should encourage in all of your podcasts to people to not just make notes.
Yeah.
Because that just creates an illusion of wisdom.
Correct. That's wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. Regardless of whether or not other people apply, I will definitely apply, sir. And I'm sure the people who hear, at least in my organization, we have this culture where we actually decode the podcast after the podcast is done. And that gives us so much insight to an extent where it almost feels like information overload after a certain point. But I just make sure that I over communicate so that if somebody has to take it up and do something with it, they would definitely do it. So
awesome.
Regardless of whether it helps other people or not, it's definitely going to help us. So
cool.
Thank you so much, sir.
Perfect.